Greetings, my fellow Freedom Lotus Sovereign Thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to the LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy Mango of South Florida. And today's date is Saturday, December 26, 2020. Yes, I'm very quiet right now and just enjoying the weather. And I was browsing through some of the information pertaining to the Nashville explosion. Now they say that many of them say it's intentional. And of course there were communications issues at the airport, Nashville airport in Kentucky and all that. So I'm not gonna go do a lot of reading on certain articles, but it's very interesting what's been coming about. And I noticed too is little history lesson what happened in the past. I'm gonna see what I'm gonna do here, because of course just winging it right now. And of course strange sounds did one on Nashville explosion was intentional, and we're gonna show some video footage. And one of the witnesses from Channel 5, Nashville News Channel 5 in Nashville, is a very interesting interview. And the way she explained herself has a great amount of merit. So I'm going to play this in its entirety. I'm not going to say anything until after it's done. But it's a little bit more complex than what it is. Let's give this a listen.
On this Christmas morning, as we continue our developing news, breaking news coverage of a huge explosion. Nick Barris in the 5 Alert Center. Nick, I understand you have spoken with a witness. What have you learned?
Yeah, Roy, this is getting to the heart of the question of what was it exactly that led law enforcement to believe that this RV on 2nd Avenue was suspicious. What drew them to that location and why? And it's really a critical question being asked right now, and I think we have some answers to that question. I talked about it earlier in one of my live hits, and now we have one of the witnesses, a resident who lives right down there, joining us on the phone right now to talk about what it was she saw. And this, folks, is very interesting. Let me make sure we've got her on the line. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. If you would, real quickly, could you please give us an idea of where you live, proximity to this RV, and then we'll get into what happened this morning.
Okay, I live at 166 2nd Avenue North. That's the building where the melting pot is located and Rodizio. And the RV was parked right outside of our window. We're on the 3rd floor, and the RV was directly across the street from our apartment.
Okay, so now let's go to what you told me and what I know authorities are looking into as well. It was around 5 or 5:30 this morning that you were awakened, and walk me through it, to the sound of gunshots initially?
Exactly. Between 5 and 5:30 a.m., we heard very loud gunshots, repetitive, like 5 to 6 shots. I'm not sure, but very loud, and that woke us up. But we only heard it for a minute, and we just thought maybe, you don't know. You live downtown, you hear things. We've been living there for 15 years. Well, about 5 minutes later, we heard it again. And then I realized, and it was in the same place right outside of our window, basically on the street. So I called 911 for the first time at 5:32 this morning was my 911 call to say that I had heard gunshots. Well, then I went downstairs. We have a 2-level apartment, and I looked out the shades of my window, which I was a little bit afraid to raise because of the gunshots were so close. And I saw an RV directly out front across the street. And I began to hear a broadcast from, like a recording coming from the RV. And it was saying, this vehicle has a bomb. If you can hear this message, you need to evacuate. And all that was happening, and it was still, that went on for about 30 minutes. And then the RV message changed and said, you have 15 minutes to evacuate. And then we heard 14 minutes. Well, I went downstairs and I looked out on the sidewalk, and I saw that police were at both ends. By the way, I did see a police officer earlier between 5:30 and 6 a.m. walk around the RV.
Okay,
and 911 told me that police had responded.
So they had responded, and we'll take it from there then. So what you're saying you heard at some point, and maybe this was something law enforcement had already been alerted to, was some kind of an announcement coming from the RV. I think you mentioned to me, did you not, it sounded recorded, a male voice, but you never saw any individual inside the RV.
No, I couldn't see inside the RV. It was parked facing in an opposite direction, so I never saw the windshield. And, I was listening to something that I think you guys just played on the news, and now I'm not as positive it was a male voice, but it was definitely a recorded voice.
A recorded voice, okay.
Consistent, saying, evacuate this area. This vehicle is a bomb. It has a bomb. And then it started the countdown, and the last count we heard was 8 minutes, and we were in our cars driving across the river. But then it didn't go off until sometime after that.
Okay, so do you think you made it across? You went over to Nissan Stadium, maybe in the parking area there. The countdown.
And watched our building, and we were looking right at our building, and we knew we couldn't hear the countdown at that point, but we knew from the time that we left, 20 minutes had passed, and there hadn't been an explosion. So we started driving back. We came back across KVB Bridge, and we're going to turn down 2nd Avenue. In fact, we made it almost down. We were on 2nd Avenue. Headed towards Broadway, but not quite to Broadway, and that's when we saw the explosion.
So at that point, you thought, hey, this may have been some type of hoax, and then, boom, it went off.
Yeah, we thought it was over, and then it happened, and then we just pulled over, and, of course, by that time, everything was blocked off. And
wow. Do you know, by the way,
we're in a hotel now.
Just to ask you this, do you know, were there other residents in the building, to your knowledge, that got out safely, perhaps, or...
Not in our building is a vacation rental business. We run that. Now, 2 of our family members are here. We have, and we got them out with us. They were in separate apartments, but they came with us. So the only 4 people in our building got out.
Had you not gotten out, do you think you would have been harmed?
Oh, definitely. You all been showing it on here. We're the building straight across from the explosion. The whole front of our building is blown up.
So you might have been killed. You might have been killed if not for that warning.
Yes, if not for the warning. If that person had just detonated that bomb with no warning and no gunshots, we would have been either very seriously injured or killed.
Let me ask you this, too. As someone who's familiar, obviously, very familiar with 2nd Avenue, the fact that there would have been an RV parked there along that stretch on Christmas morning, not that unto itself, by itself, just sitting there, is not all that unusual, would it be? There were other vehicles parked on the road. That wouldn't have been suspicious by itself, would it?
No, it wouldn't have, and especially because it's the holidays and people know that parking's not being enforced. I would have assumed that was some family visiting somebody, and they just parked their RV there.
So it's your belief, then, that the early response from law enforcement and obviously how you were able to get out of there is because of combination, the gunshots, which really right now we can't really explain what those were all about, and then the warning from the vehicle.
Exactly. Yeah, the gunshots, and I mentioned this before, and I'm not sure of this, but the gunshots were so loud, there is a possibility. We've wondered now if they weren't a recording that came from the vehicle as well.
Interesting.
We don't know that, but as we've reflected back on it, because we heard it 3 times, it was exactly the same. We wonder now if we weren't listening to a recording, but we don't know. But the gunshots definitely is what woke us up. And then, because the recording I don't think would have been loud enough to wake us up if we hadn't heard the gunshots.
Of course. By the way, do you have any inkling, and not something you would have necessarily noticed, but how long had the RV been there? Was it there earlier in the day? Do you think it just showed up overnight? Do you have any idea?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was not. I went out yesterday morning. I went to do a little last-minute shopping, and I don't remember seeing it then. I feel like I might have noticed because the street was pretty dead. There were a few workman-type cars there, but I didn't notice it, no. So I don't know.
And by the way,
I didn't take a picture of it or anything.
Sure. Well, why would you, of course? And can you give me, though, kind of a description of it? An older RV, a new one? Is this one of those where there was a camper attached to a pickup, or how would you describe it?
No, it was a single vehicle. It was definitely one vehicle.
Okay.
Like a bigger kind of RV. It wasn't all beat up looking, but it wasn't new. It wasn't one of those slick-sided ones. It was more of an older one, but it was large. It was a large RV, and it was an older one.
Now, do you have any idea when you'll be allowed back into the area? And for now, I assume you're elsewhere.
Yeah, we're at a hotel now. Honestly, it's very difficult to tell. I don't know which building for sure is ours that you're all showing on the film, but I know all of our front windows are blown out, our apartment's blown out. I can't imagine that we'll be back in for days, and we didn't come out with anything but the clothes on our backs and pajamas.
And again, since you're very familiar with that area, we know there are restaurants and clubs there. Can you think of anything there in your mind, and I'm just asking you as a citizen who lives in that area, that would have been a potential target?
No, I can't. Our thought was they must be after the AT&T building. That was our thought, just because, that's where they were parked, on that side of the street. They chose not, thank God, to go down to Broadway and destroy everything. So, our thought was they must have been aiming for the building that they parked close to.
Gotcha.
Just
Well,
because
that's something. That's certainly something I know law enforcement will be going to look at, and that's just speculation right now. But listen, ma'am, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm so glad you were safe. And hopefully, what you've shared here, and along with authorities, will help in the investigation of this case. But thank you, ma'am, so much for your time.
Very interesting indeed. Yeah. So the way she addressed it to the reporter was keen, persistent, non-hesitant. And the way it was exhibited was very accurate from her own story. It's really interesting because I was like, even on the YouTube channel, they were all saying, hey, hire her as a reporter and get rid of the other Sputnik. But it was very impressive. And like I said, so there was gunshots and the RV was there, but they weren't so sure. However, when I was like looking through the other sites, they were talking about it was there at 1:30 a.m. supposedly, 1:22 a.m. And that's from of course, the Nashville police wrote this in here. And right off of 2nd Avenue North this morning at 1:22 a.m. And James Spann put this on Facebook, says, breaking the RV that exploded on 2nd Avenue North this morning. It arrived on 2nd Avenue at 1:22 a.m. Have you seen this vehicle in our area? Do you have information about it? Please contact Crime Stoppers. So, an FBI, and of course, FBI.gov/Nashville. And of course, the video, that was the chilling video when they talked about the countdown, which she attested that as well. It was a warning, and of course, that's when things exploded later on. And according to this, they said one officer was knocked to the ground by the impact, and another suffered hearing loss. Oops. I screwed up here. Okay. Another suffered hearing loss. At least 3 people were transported to a hospital with non-critical injuries. One of them was also knocked to the ground. Of course, the explosion occurred in an area packed with bars, restaurants, and entertainment venues. Due to the holidays, the streets were largely vacant at the time of the explosion. There's other video stuff in the aftermath. And of course, they have sealed it off. FBI investigates. It's interesting about that. Now it's leading the investigation, working with police, local police, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Of course, Governor Bill Lee, earlier this morning, an explosion occurred in downtown Nashville, sound around 2nd Avenue and Commerce Street. Federal, state, and local enforcement partners are in the scene to investigate what we believe was an intentional act. All right, and that was like around 10 o'clock this morning, 10:20. Investigators said they were gathering leads and evidence from the scene, including from the street building, security, camera footage. They offered no motive for explosion. What's going on in America right now? Is this explosion linked to a political unrest currently hitting the city? Is it another maneuver to destabilize the system and escalates to violence? More Nashville news, NPR, Strange Sounds, and Steve Quayle. So it's interesting there because Steve Quayle, he's very good. So we can see a potential act of war. I wouldn't be surprised. And of course, Fox Sun Charlotte brought some stuff in here as well. And I'm just browsing through, saying most of it is very similar. And they're talking about there's some possible remains, possible human remains near the vehicle. It says here, but I could bring it down here about explosion knocks communications offline. AT&T said that the affected building is a central office of a telephone exchange with network equipment. The blast interrupted service, but the company declined to say how widespread outages were. says here the end AT&T outages site shows service issues in the middle of Tennessee and Kentucky. Several police agencies reported that their 911 systems were down because of the outage, including Knox County, home of Knoxville, about 180 miles east of Nashville. Of course, there's emergency numbers as well. And AT&T said it was bringing a portable cell site, so that's working with law enforcement and access to make repairs of this equipment. Of course, as he reported to the Federal Aviation Administration temporarily halted flights out of Nashville International Airport because of telecommunications issues associated with the explosion. I hope we'll find. It looks like they may have got that taken care of, and someone sent me that with tweets on Twitter. And of course, the blast hit a lot of areas, black smoke and flames on the bar area and so forth. The police has closed it off. And let me see here. I'm just browsing through. And it's an interesting story. Let me see here. Given 2020, we're not sure he would wake up on Christmas Day. But yeah, this is not the way we thought we would wake up, said Sonny Fleming, who woke to the blast we felt it heard at the house. Buck McCoy, who lives near the area, posted videos on Facebook to show water pouring down the ceiling out of his home, alarms blare in the background, and cries of people in great distress in the ring in the background. The fire is visible. Street outside, McCoy said the windows of his home were entirely blown out. All my windows, every single one of them, got blown out into the next room. If I had been standing there, it would have been horrible, he said. And there were about 4 cars on fire. I don't know if it was so hot they just got caught on fire and trees were blown apart, he said. So there's like actually photos of this as well. And the canine went in the explosion area. Make sure there's no others. So there's a lot of photos in here as well. And they're like having bomb sniffing dogs in the area. They have blocked it off. And let me see here. The downtown area remains shut down with Metro Police, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, the FBI, and other agencies investigated. The mayor also issued a curfew in the area, so it's potential insurrection. The way it's said, if it's intentional. President Trump has been briefed, according to the White House spokesperson, Judd Deere, who said that Trump, who is spending holidays in Florida, will continue to receive regular updates. And, of course, President-elect Joe Biden has also been briefed, which is not official yet, folks. So the President-elect and Dr. Biden thank all the first responders working today in response to the incident and wish those who were injured a speedy recovery, the transition team said in a statement. U.S. Department of Justice Acting Attorney Jeff Rosen, CFR Rosen to be exact, was also briefed and directed all department resources be made available to help with the investigation. And, of course, Governor Lee and his wife, please join. It says here, will provide resources necessary to determine what happened and who was responsible. Please join Marie Lee, Tennessee, TN, and me in praying for those who are injured. And we thank all the first responders who acted so quickly this morning. So, Crime Stoppers, of course. The FBI has also a digital tip line for anyone with information about the explosion. And, of course, Red Cross is from Tennessee is announced that it was working with officials to open the shelters. All right, so stories, there'll be more updates on here. So that's what they have to say. That's very interesting. But let me see here. Check this one out. Yeah, looks like it had the same. Same one. Okay. And boom. This is what Mike Adams has to say. He did an article on Prepare for War after January 6th. Expect all hell to break loose across America. And let me see here. This will be under Let me see. I'm just like winging it right now, folks. Okay. It's interesting here on this one paragraph area. If Trump won't want to act, the people likely will. But it's interesting right here. There's one paragraph pertaining to the FBI. It says these dark creatures must be removed from public office by every legal means available. And the people have become to realize that there's no mechanism with the swamp creatures would hold each accountable. The FBI, for example, has become a corrupt cesspool of criminality and fraud. The FBI does not stop crime. It manages crime and in many cases initiates crimes in America. All right, so and of course on here, prepare for disruptions, prepare for war. And so I'm just looking through here. They showed a video of the explosion. And I'll just read it from here, in like 4 paragraphs down, so bear with me. We encourage all Americans to use this holiday and time to prepare for the events that seems likely to unfold in January in many cities in America. It now appears will become an active war zones. We specifically anticipate blue cities being under siege and urge inhabitants there to prepare for disruptions in food supply, electricity, water, communications infrastructure, and other similar comforts of modern living. Because we all also realize that the radical left will quickly take to the streets to try to murder patriots and seize control over the country. We urge all Americans to prepare for your own homes, families, neighbors to defend against Antifa, BLM terrorism, which is now synonymous with FBI terrorism, FBI raids on patriots. The FBI is now essentially a branch of Black Lives Matter and a function in its entirety as a terrorism front group for the radical left. So here's another example. As I'm trying to focus on here, another example of today's explosion of an RV. This was released on Christmas, so just to let you know, of an RV in Nashville was no doubt the work of the FBI itself, whose agents are well trained in terrorism and explosives. As you can see in the video below, a loudspeaker was announcing the following message moments before the explosion. If you can hear this message, evacuate now. And of course, the witness talked about that. And so there's no doubt whatsoever that the FBI set this off in an attempt to start running false flag operations against patriots, whom they will target with prosecution, execution campaigns under a Biden administration. Never forget that the FBI executed Dr. Martin Luther King. The FBI was part of the covering up of JFK and RFK. James Comey is a malicious traitor, and current FBI Director Christopher Wray has been linked to a Russian energy company. That links back to Uranium One, the same scandal involving Hillary Clinton and Robert Mueller. And another thing too is interesting. Even Oklahoma City in '95, there's a lot of smoking guns, and before that, the 1993 bombing at the World Trade Center, which is FBI connections involvement as well, according to one military man from Egypt, which is in the area, was living in New York. They wanted to hire him. He had everything recorded too. He was like very fishy. So there's some merit to this report, what Mike Adams has done from Natural News. So you always gotta look at these areas, and people gotta be ready for sure. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this article here as well, just to give you guys something to look at. Is this prelude to World War III? It is possible. Now with the elections and all that, so it's very disturbing as well. So that's why on my last episode I told people be ready, prepare yourselves at all costs, because crap is going to hit the fan, Lord forbid. And I don't want to see anything like this happen in anywhere like Nashville and a few and places around all 50 states and so forth. But vigilance is the key. So, and someone maybe, if they get suspects, maybe you may be considered to be a patsy. Maybe they may get someone portrayed as a white nationalist. You never know, because the whole white power, white privilege, blame someone for being white. So everybody throw that in there, the monkey wrench. Don't be surprised. Or someone who has a low IQ, dumb as a rock. They can use them as well. And we're just gonna find out, hey, if who was that person that was the human remains. So a lot of questions are still in the air. And so if that's the case, like I said, my folks, please pay attention. I mean that. I've been talking about this for a very long time before I've been podcasting. And just pay attention, be ready, and love your neighbors and love yourself, okay? All right. Well, I will leave here by saying that's all. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or something interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence with decorum. Furthermore, I'll leave the footnotes of this information on my speaker page. And if you have any, if you want to contact me, you can hit me at LokiLuck3@gmail.com or LokiLuck03@gmail.com. And if you want to send me donations, that'd be cool. You can hit me at paypal.me/LokiLuck3 or Cash.app, Cash.app, $ LokiLuck3. All right. And so strange sound, they do donations, support them as well. All right. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.